welcome to another episode of Your Words, Your Voice. I am the host, James Hopkins, and today I have a special guest host, Mr. Zion Washington from Jackson State, and my guest for today is none other than the incomparable Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Mr. Lumumba, we're going to start out. Just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Well, first of all, greetings to your listening audience and to both of you gentlemen. It's a pleasure being here with you. I told you all you had to do was ask me, and any time that it worked for our schedules, I would be glad to join you. And so I'm happy to sit here with both of you gentlemen. Had the opportunity to meet Zion before, very impressed with this young brother. Just simply, not a long introduction. Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Most people know that I had the pleasure of serving as mayor for 2 terms since 2017, but I'm also a practicing attorney. And more important than any of that is that I've been a long-time community organizer. I was raised in that vein. That's the work that my parents both not only gave their lives to, but raised my sister and I to be a part of that work. So no matter what I'm doing, I will always do that, not only because it's, second nature to me, but selfishly it's how I keep my parents alive by being engaged. And that's, candidly why I've been so willing to meet you, invite you to programs, because I respect the work that you've been doing, brother.
Thank you.
When we were on the campaign trail, I told you that.
That's right, you did.
I told you that, the work that you do with Reset Jackson, the work that as I was, cleaning in South Jackson, I heard brothers singing your praises of the work you do. You had a good relationship with. We share a mutual friend in Marcus Williams.
That's right.
We call him Goat.
That's right, Goat.
He always talked about it. I didn't know about your history in hip hop. So he informed me of all of that.
Okay, yes, sir. I was the best.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm not doubting it.
I was the best.
You can't just say that. You gotta. Hey, look, there's a generation that don't know that, right?
Okay, that's right.
We gotta put that back out. But just happy to be here, brother, and talk about whatever you two gentlemen have on your minds.
Okay, let's start out with first. Tell us a little bit about who you are as a father, a husband, and a son.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think in answering that question, I have to recognize that one of the most amazing things that I'm grateful to inherit is that I come from a long legacy of men who love their families, right? Just taking it back, my great-grandfather, he raised his 2 boys by himself. My grandfather was the oldest on my father's side, and their mother died giving birth to my Uncle Edward, right? And so my grandfather actually lost his boys during the Great Depression to a foster care system. He had to give them up because he couldn't afford to keep them. And he worked and he worked and he worked until he could get his boys back, and they were inseparable. My grandparents had 8 children. My grandfather was a professional boxer. He served in the military.
Okay.
He worked odd jobs so that he could send all of his children to private school, take good care of them. I have 2 aunts to this day that have never learned how to drive because their dad drove them everywhere. This was before the age of Uber and everything else. Okay. And I always marveled at how he could be everywhere at once. My father, I had the great fortune of living in the house with my hero, not only because of the wealth of knowledge that he imparted upon me, but seeing a man who not only loved his family but loved his community. But also taught me valuable lessons. Many people are unaware that I am the youngest of 3. Okay. The oldest is my brother Cam, Kamba and Mutope.
Okay.
And Cam was shot in the head when I was in 4th grade. And when I talk about my father not only being my hero, part of him being my hero is his introspective nature. I watched my father give a speech one time where he thanked many people in the crowd for their contributions, and he ended his speech by saying, "I want to introduce y'all to my hero." And he said, "My hero is my oldest son, Cam." Mm-hmm. And he said, "He's my hero not only because he survived a bullet wound to the head, but because he survived my immaturity as a young father." Wow. Right? And so he put himself on the line to be clear that he was not a perfect man, nor was he ever trying to, offer himself as the image of perfection. And so I'm grateful now that both of my parents have gone on to eternal rest, that I have an amazing family of my own. I have a wife who is a brilliant scholar, right? We've known each other since kindergarten. So, my best friend.
Soulmates.
Yeah. So I marvel and I'm her biggest cheerleader. People always, when they have the opportunity to hear her speak, they come to me and they say, she might be better than you. And I say, well, you just now finding that out, right? Like you can't.
Her on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. She's spectacular. And raising two amazing young women, right, who are fearless, who have self-confidence in a way that I don't recall having at their age. And so I have the great joy of witnessing them grow into young women. So I'm a proud father. They're both named after my mother. My mother died when I was in college, between my sophomore and junior year. And so just seeing the beauty of the women that they're becoming, not only their intellect, not only their ambition and bravery, but their humor. They're really funny children, right? Like, we as parents get the opportunity to experience our children, and sometimes we can't let them know how funny they are, right?
That's right.
But
that's right.
I'm loving that. I'm loving that.
That's great. That's great. Young father. I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I'll let Zion ask a couple of questions. My question is basically about what's going on in the news. Mm-hmm. We know yesterday Chief Wade resigned, and my assumption is that it was an immediate resignation. Chief Wade is someone that you hired, and he's done wonders for the police department as far as restaffing, as far as building hope and unity back within the community of Jackson. He did something that I hadn't seen in a long time. He made people believe in the police department so much to where people were willing to talk again about the things they saw. And what happened within people doing that, crime decreased so fast. Now, he stepped down, and I get a lot of people are kind of bothered by it, but I know he has to make whatever decisions are best for him. But he was your pick. When you were vetting other candidates, was there anybody else that you think would have had that same type of mentality and that same ability to build community that you saw in Chief Wade?
Well, first, let me say this. I'm grateful for Chief Wade's willingness to serve under my administration. One of the things that I think was a hallmark of our success was how closely connected we were in terms of making sure that we spoke every week. We would have a standing meeting every Monday where we, looked over the data. We weren't only talking about, the numbers in terms of where crime was, trying to look at the numbers in a way to understand how we needed to respond to those challenges. But one of the things I challenged him with was re-establishing the morale of the police department. And one of the things he initiated upon that challenge was a morale committee. I'm big on community policing, which merely means, viewing the community as a resource that you communicate with, because they're closest to the problems and they understand what's happening, right next to them.
Right.
But you also have to realize that the men and women who serve in the Jackson Police Department are people as well.
Right.
People who may be suffering from a lack of financial means to take care of their family and that's stressing them. People who, their scheduling issues may impact their life in various ways. And so to have leadership that has a listening ear to those challenges is not only important, but it's meaningful to those men and women. And so I'm grateful for that. I think he did an amazing job. There were a number of things to work through. People forget that a good portion of my time in office was during the height of a little thing called COVID, right? And in the same way that COVID not only affected, health conditions and our safety in that regard. But we saw a decline in the workforce in every sector of life, right? Law enforcement was not absolved of that challenge, right? So not only the fact that we see far fewer individuals going into the field of law enforcement was challenging, and that was something that he had to contend with, but add that thing like a global pandemic on top of it made it very challenging. So I want to give him his credit in reestablishing not only the morale, but working to rebuild the Jackson Police Department. I have spoken to him a number of times, just a few times since I left office, just to check in, right? I want people to remember that I see them as people too. So
that's
just,
right.
I haven't done a lot of talk about the politics. I have not spoken to him about his decision to leave. So I won't purport to know what all went into his decision. But I wish him well. I know that one of the things he was really proud of is that he had an opportunity to finish his bachelor's degree.
Right.
And that was something that was availed to me through Strayer University, that they said that I could give someone a free scholarship. And so he came to me and said that he humbly said, I'd love to be able to finish my education.
Wow.
And so I'm just grateful that I had the privilege to offer that to him. And so I think that the world is in front of him. I think that there are a number of opportunities. Sometimes we get used to, and I'm saying this not only for him but myself, we get used to seeing people in a role, and we can only imagine them in that role.
Right.
But that's not where the world ends. That's not where opportunity ends. And so I wish him the best. I wish him the best, and I wish our city the best.
That's
right.
That's right.
But to your point about whether someone else could be in that role, I mean, I think that the bench of individuals who not only have the knowledge and understanding of what it takes to run an organization as large as the Jackson Police Department, but also the vision, right? To see what is needed and who you're going to have to rely on in order to achieve the feat of running it correctly, is you have very few people who understand that.
Right.
But I don't think hope is lost. I think given the right interviewing, right, the right understanding of what is necessary, then prayerfully we land on someone else who not only looks at how we make our city safer, but looks at how we continue to engage and build community in the process.
Right. Okay. And that was my biggest concern when I heard that he had resigned is, he definitely built community. And, a lot of time people, for a long time, nobody trusts the police department. Nobody want to work with them. Hey, that's their job to solve crime, not mine. But he changed that mentality. Yeah. And I just want to make sure, but I'm gonna say I'm pessimistically optimistic that we're going to get somebody.
I'll give you cautiously optimistic.
Right, cautiously. We'll take that one. That they're going to actually come in and not just stronghold the citizens.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna fix crime and we're gonna batten down and batten down and batten down and batten down, and all of a sudden, you become a bigger problem than the criminals.
Yeah.
And our first engagements, and people don't know this, when I first started engaging with the mayor, it wasn't on the friendly level. I had a bad problem with the ticket and tow initiative that was going on. I think the first time I talked to you about it was at Bellhaven. There was a meeting there because I felt like what was going on with that, the only people who were suffering were the people who were more impoverished. Even if you set it up across the city, people who have the funds and the ability to pay for insurance were never affected. I was also looking at numbers, and I wasn't seeing where enough felons were being arrested in order to justify taking the cars of so many thousands of people. So I've always, and I guess and that was something personal with me, and I'm gonna move on because this isn't really about me, but I've always felt like roadblocks, and not to offend anybody, I felt like roadblocks is a form of lazy policing, because you could take that same 20 officers and beat the streets, get in these communities, talk to communities, or you can take those 20 officers and stand in one spot and wait for people to come to you. And to me, it's just a form of lazy policing. But I'm gonna move on.
Well, I do want to, since you mentioned that and how we first engaged, I don't
You don't
perceive
remember it?
no.
Okay.
I don't perceive that at any point we've had contentious meeting, right?
Right. No contentious meetings.
Yeah, if you challenged what was going on, I
Right.
think that's your job, right?
Right.
I think that, to the question of where do we go from here,
Right.
we as citizens of Jackson, Mississippi, we can't rest in our laurels and just think that everything, situates itself and the world becomes good
Right.
because we put somebody in office
Right.
or because someone takes a position. We have a responsibility. This is our city. This is our community. This is, our home. And so it's always important to be engaged and challenge things like that.
That's
And,
right.
and here's the reality. Sometimes in an office like mayor, you have the choice between a bad decision and a worse decision, right? And you're trying to navigate the way forward, where there's certain threats and certain harm that's happening in community. And, you're being told by those that are the experts in law enforcement that they think that this is a useful tool. And so we have to be able to have that dialogue
Right.
so that we reach, a happy medium of, not only how do we make the conditions safer, but how do we make sure that the community isn't violated in the process. And so out of that, right, I don't know if you recall, we start engaging organizations like the Poor People's Campaign.
I remember that.
And, the ACL, I think it was the ACLU. I may be wrong on that point.
It was ACLU and Poor People's Campaign.
And we were, when they were on site
Right.
at some of the roadblocks, right? And the first effort, when the police found that somebody, had issues of registration or something, it wasn't to arrest them at that point.
Right.
It was to talk to them and give them counsel
Right.
on how they were no longer riding dirty. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
there you go.
We are that generation, right?
Right.
We the
Riding
UGK
dirty.
generation,
That's
right?
right.
So how do we get you out of the position that, because whether the police are stopping you today at this roadblock, right? You're still riding around in a vulnerable state, right? You're still in a condition that you can be stopped at any moment in time.
Right.
And be in the cycle of debt, the cycle of trauma that either has you paying more money or in and out of court and all of the harm that takes place. And so it ended up becoming an opportunity to make sure that we were engaging people and helping them get on the up and up.
Right. Okay. Mr. Zion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This one's going to be a little bit more of an introspective question.
Okay.
And again, the phone number, if you want to call in and chime in, the number is 601-387-2684. Again, that's 601-387-2684.
So just kind of getting into your thinking process here, what really made you want to get into politics? Was there a certain book that you read? Was there a certain influencer that you had in mind, a role model? Because politics is such a rocky field at times. What kind of made you want to encompass the role of a public servant?
Well, Zion, I didn't want to get into politics. That's the quick answer. And that was never a goal of mine. I didn't grow up and say that I wanted to be mayor one day. My friend Andre Dickens of Atlanta, the mayor of Atlanta, said that when he was in 7th grade or 6th grade in junior high, he said that he told somebody, I'm going to be the mayor of Atlanta one day. I never told anybody that. What I did have was a family that was invested in community work. It's a long story, so I won't go through all of it. But my father came to Jackson in the late 60s trying to do work to build self-determined communities, not only working to build community and build resources and access for Black people, but also the educational part about what is the importance of self-determination. That led into a very dynamic and interesting battle with the police at that time in the 70s. That's a long story. But he later returned back to Detroit, Michigan to finish his law degree and start working for community in the capacity of being a lawyer. So My father, as many people know, he represented Tupac Shakur. But before he represented Tupac, he represented his stepfather, Mutulu Shakur, in New York, in upstate New York. That case had my family live in New York for about 3 years. Once he finished representing Mutulu, my parents both decided that they wanted to move down south for a slower pace. And we ultimately decided on Jackson, Mississippi, because my father said that there was unfinished business here. And so he not only, my parents not only gave us food, water, and shelter like all parents, aim to give their children. They gave us a sense of community. So most of my weekends, most of my time was at the Malcolm X Center on the corner of Martin Luther King and Randall Street, where we had political education for the community, where we had day camps, not only during the school year, but we had day camps in the summer where we would literally round up children from around the community and give them 2 to 3 weeks, as much as we could afford, right, to not only feed them, but give them skills and also enjoyment for the summer and give relief to the parents, right? We had the New African Scouts, right? I wasn't a part of the Boy Scouts, right? I was a part of the New African Scouts, where we were basically trying to build community and build an understanding of how we become the cavalry that we're waiting on. But in that process of working at that center, you learn that everyone's not going to come to the center. Everyone's not going to hear the message of why we need to unify and how do we build a better community, right? And so my father and some of his comrades later came to the strategy that it might be useful into entering electoral politics. He first ran for council, and then he ran for mayor. And so he thought that I should do it, but I was opposed to it until I learned leadership comes less out of political ambition and more out of necessity. I'm sorry.
We have a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. Caller, you're on the air.
They hung up.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Hit me a little harder. Let me know. But February 25th of 2014 was the day that I came to the understanding that leadership comes less out of political ambition and more out of necessity. That was the day my father died. And my father often said that he saw, working in electoral politics being more suited for my skill set than even his own. But I was not interested in it whatsoever, not only because I had just started practicing law and wanted to do that work, but there were personal things. My wife and I were dating, well, my girlfriend at that time were dating, and you start thinking about the things that you want to do to build your life. And so when he died, I realized the selfishness in my desire, that not being my desire. I love community because I was taught to love community. I was taught to not only love family, love community, but to view the community as a family. And so, I have a fire that's in me, right? And it's not out of any anger, it's out of love. I have a fire in me anytime I feel that people are being taken advantage of, anytime I feel that people aren't being represented properly. And it's not a disdain for anybody else. It's not because I hate anybody else, right? It's because I actually want to see people in a better space. Yeah.
Caller, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was calling into the show.
Yes, sir. We're listening.
Hey, what I was trying to understand is if we have been trying to bring money into Jackson for the past, let's say, since 1997, as our leadership took over. This conversation would probably go a lot different had I not heard Vernon Hartley say today, there's so much we don't know and we forgot.
Mm-hmm.
How is it possible that we didn't reopen Lake Hacko? And before I finish with Lake Hacko, Livingston Park at the zoo could have brought the zoo back. Knowing the history of Jackson and the racist policies that have been put in place, just basically stealing money from the citizens, property values, schools closing. With our majority vote, with our majority population, why isn't that we didn't get Lake Hacko back open instead of draining it. Reopening the zoo swimming bathing pond, as they used to call it. That's bringing property values up, jobs to the area, businesses investing faster than anything you could imagine, while we're wasting time having rhetoric conversations about here and there going everywhere. We had the two most valuable assets in Jackson closed in 1968 under the most racist administration possible. We don't even have to mention the killings at Jackson State or Mega Evers, or how about the what are them people, the Freedom Riders being arrested. We in ground zero racism. We can change this city by repenting, turning around, and focusing on what's positive in the people, and quit letting this rich people keep propaganding us into separation. It's time for Jackson to make a positive change. This ground zero for racism, it needs to be ground zero for healing.
Okay, thank you for that call.
Yeah, well, caller, I would agree with you that we have to see ourselves as the cavalry we've been waiting on, right? The only way that we get past those challenges is the unity that we harness and demonstrate for ourselves and build a strategy. Now, I would share that most things don't happen not for a lack of political will, but for a lack of resources. You mentioned a few things. The challenge that you have, and yes, those that don't know the history, the closing of Lake Hiko, had a lot to do with integration, most thing to do with integration and the fact that it was not a lake that they wanted people that look like you and I to use. But we have to also understand the many layers of what brings something into fruition. Often we look at our leadership and don't realize that there's a layer above them, right? And there's a saying that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, right? So one of those tools when it comes to Lake Hiko is understanding that you have a department called the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality that issues permits for the use of bodies of water. And Lake Hiko was only permitted as a cooling pond, right? And so there were a number of things, a lot of investments that would have had to been made, not to say that they should not or that should not have been the strategy. The property is ultimately owned by the school district. But there was a lot of things that needed to be done in order to get it into a condition that MDEQ would have permitted it for recreational use, right?
Okay, and I hate to cut you off, but let's have this debate. Because
I don't think we debated, brother.
Evers,
I think we might be in agreement.
I'm just
but I'm
saying,
listening.
Mega Evers got killed in Jackson. We saw the Freedom Riders get arrested. This is not a time for them to give us rhetoric about why the black people can't go over there and fish, swim, and boat like the white people did when we know why it was closed. This is the time for us to make national news, and we get it open. See, the fight doesn't start with us dodging paperwork. The fight starts on the news. You know that public opinion means everything in America. This is a national news issue. And like I stated earlier, this is ground zero. Mm-hmm. So where are the Mega Evers fighters that would say, let's boycott Capitol Street, we're not shopping and spending money? See, where's my mayor who's going to say, that lake is going to be open, and I'll be damned, it don't. Mm-hmm. Let's get the National Guard in here. Let's get the police over there. Let's get the national news in here. Bring attention to what they did. That's how you fix these problems. Mm-hmm. Not telling me about no paperwork and the environmental people. No, because I got more lakes on the list that are still open.
Yes, sir. That's a good question. And with all due respect, I do own a nonprofit, and we're out here all the time fighting for change in this city. But the problem is that I hear what you're saying, but when it comes to people showing up for these rallies, it's a totally different thing. We all can be phone activists. We all can be social media activists. But until you have boots on the ground, you're really not doing anything that's going to help the situation. Look up Reset Jackson. Follow my page. I'm always out. I'm never out without letting people know first. So I would love for the people who are want to make that change, and I believe you're passionate about that change. Let's get together. give me a call. You can FaceTime or whatever you want to do. Give me a call. Let's set up these meetings. We don't have to spend a whole show talking about it. Let's get together, let's plan it, and let's make it happen. So that's where the people are. You're going to be one, I'm going to be one, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you, sir. Thanks for that call.
I'd just like to add something. One of the most important things that, coming down from Chicago, I see in Jackson is the need to mobilize the constituents in this city. It's not only important to be activists, but we also need to be revolutionists as well. We need to continuously show up and promote for the change that we want to see. It is not enough to just bring awareness to the issue. We must combat the issue at hand, find systematic ways to get it done, and devise programmatic solutions to make sure that you can see the change that you want to see in the city. So thank you.
I 100% agree with you, brother. And brother, I was speaking from an informed position that many people may not know the dynamic there. Now, you raised a different issue and that's an issue of taking an organized revolutionary approach. Now, first and foremost, something that most people probably don't accuse me of is being too kind. I actually got into it with the governor on many occasions and have been labeled as one who can't get along. And the reason I can't get along is, it's not that I don't have a nice, warm personality. It's not that I can't, I can't be humorous or charming. The disagreement was you. The disagreement was the people of Jackson. The disagreement was that I was unwilling to just let things ride in the way that the state was approaching the city, right? So, yes, we do need to organize. We do need to mobilize. But to both of these brothers' points, we actually have to come on one accord and decide that we're going to take that action. And oftentimes people don't show up, right?
They don't.
And we romanticize. Here's the reality. We romanticize the history of Medgar. We romanticize the history of Martin. The reality is that those brothers were often standing alone, right?
That's right.
And we didn't start appreciating them. And I also want to bring the sisters Fannie Lou Hamer and Ida B. Wells. We don't appreciate the work that they were doing and how they were putting themselves on the line until they're long gone, right?
That's right.
And when we talk about things like boycotts, what we don't speak about, we just think that it was just an easy decision that people stop riding buses and stop shopping at grocery stores. They don't tell you about, the Mississippi Delta and the Beltline that people had to go through. The Rudy Shields of the world that if they saw you go into that grocery store, there was literally, and I'm not advocating for this, but I'm giving you history. There was literally a line that they would bring you in a gymnasium or someplace late at night and, you were going to get a whooping, right? Because they wanted to teach you that we all together. When I was in South Africa, I went when my sister was in an exchange program over there. They had a demonstration against the school because funds were being misappropriated. And they had what they call a toy, which was a protest, a demonstration. If you were in class when a toy was going on, they were pulling you out of class, and it was going to be some physical repercussions to being in there. So it takes a lot, and you need to know, we got to know the history of how these organizing efforts take place and not just think that it was just some simple, kumbaya moment that everybody decided that they were going to work together.
That's right. Design.
All right. Are we allowed to move on to the next question?
Let's go to the next question,
move on to the
unless
next
we have
question.
another caller.
All right. So moving on to the next question. After your first unsuccessful campaign, what motivated you to run again?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's important that, and this was my vision, and I think that this is something that all people should adopt. I share with people because it was a common question, as I'm sure I'll be asked, in the future here. Was I going to run again? And my response to that.
Took my last
no, we'll come to it. We'll come to it. My response to that was if it was necessary, right? And just as I feel right now, I am a supporter of the people of Jackson, Mississippi. I want their prosperity. I want their growth. I want their safety. And if that is achieved by anybody, whether by me or someone else, then I'm grateful for that, right? That is my prayer for our city. My prayer is that the Lord shows the people of Jackson something they've never seen before, right? That he takes this city to a higher destination. And so if I felt that those things were in place at the end of the former mayor, the mayor that preceded me, then I would not have run. But there were things that I felt needed to be accomplished. And while there's certainly things that we could have gotten better. I don't want to project that we were a perfect administration, but we did achieve some things that have never been achieved in the city's history, right? Making investments that have never been made in the city of Jackson before, particularly around infrastructure. Now, when you have 30 years of work that needs to be done, right, or better, right? And when I say 30 years, I'm not being critical of past mayors. To the other caller's point, they're not done for a lack of resources. What happened was divestment in Jackson. What happened was white flight. Jackson was nearly 200,000 people, and when that population left, right, they didn't take the pipes with them. They didn't take the roads with them, and so it left the responsibility to maintain that infrastructure on a smaller number of people. And so we have to find creative ways. We were the first administration to do a leverage of a special sales tax so that we could have more money up front to jumpstart the work that was happening. First in the state of Mississippi's history, right? Now other cities are doing it, modeled after Jackson, right? And so, that's what led me was, feeling the importance of the work, being, right next to my father and his comrades as they were strategizing in terms of what they were going to do to help build Jackson. And I felt that I could be useful to that. And I'm grateful for my time, to have served in that regard. The Lord often moves you from spaces that you may not mentally or physically understand that you need to be moved on to. And so I'm embracing the next challenge. I told you I never thought that I would run for mayor to begin with, right? That wasn't the vision. Now, when I look back on my life, there are things that I kind of chuckle to myself in how the Lord moved and worked to make things happen. My mother used to tell me she didn't want me to be a lawyer, right? She would actually say, don't do that same old boring thing your dad did, right? She wanted me to be an architect or an engineer, and that's why I went to Tuskegee University, because it was not only a space that I could, pursue political science, which I did, and did the exact opposite of what she wanted me to do. I did everything that my father did. But as a child, I used to draw street designs, right? And she would teach me about Benjamin Banneker, who designed the city of Washington, D.C., and she just knew her son would be an architect one day. And while that wasn't my path and that wasn't my passion, look at the Lord's humor in that, while I did go into law, he would lead me into a space where I could influence those type of things. And so it's amazing when you find, what the Lord's plan is for you. It's a beautiful thing. And so I can't be grateful for what he's shown me thus far in my life and not have not only patience, but peace about where he's taking me next.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short commercial, and when we be back momentarily with Your Words, Your Voice, and my special guest, Mayor Chukwe Antalamumba.
Advertise on WeBelieve.Global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.Global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
All right. We're back, and we're going to take a question from our online audience. This is from Mr. Ty Brooks. Ty says, is there anything you could have done differently? What would it be? If there was anything that you could have done differently, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few things. I think that there were maybe some compromises, and I won't get into specifics or individuals of certain people in certain positions that, as I realized that it wasn't going the direction it needed to go in, that I maybe should have pulled the trigger a little earlier. There are, engagements that while I feel that we were on the right side, I know we were on the right side of history on these issues, that maybe I could have dug a little deeper to find compromise or consensus. The garbage issue being one of them. It was so hotly, and contested in such a tense issue. Now, I know that we were going for the cheapest price for our residents. I know that was important, that we honored the procurement process, because once you open Pandora's box, you can never close it again.
That's right.
And so those things were important. Now we see that there's another effort to raise the water rates. That's why keeping the garbage and the sanitation costs low were so important, for the issue of fighting for the workers' rights was important. People don't realize that 40%, nearly half of the workforce of the hoppers who collected garbage, they were temp staff, meaning they had no 401k, they had no health care benefits, they had no security in their jobs, right? When we talk about issues of public safety, crime isn't unique to Jackson. Crime isn't unique to black people. Wherever you have high poverty, you have high crime often. There's an association between those things. And so when we have a workforce that is doing some of the things that none of us would, and picking up some of the things that none of us would want to pick up, right? And they're living paycheck to paycheck when they're on the fringes of society, then that makes it difficult for them. I was blessed. I wasn't, and this is something that people misconstrue. I didn't grow up in a wealthy household, right? Now, I didn't grow up also with some of the lack that some of the people that I've grown to know and love have grown up with, right? And so I'm grateful for, the opportunities that were extended to me. But at the same time, when I started making a living on my own, when I had the ability to get my own house, there were things that I started looking at life differently, right? I started thinking, well, maybe I want to get some health insurance, right? Maybe I do want to get some life insurance, things that when you are experiencing life on a different level, you start looking at how you extend, right, instead of survive, right?
Right.
And when people are surviving, then and they're not really benefiting from life, then any little type of disrespect really sets them off, right? Because they're already living in a almost a desperate condition, right? And so we have to look at how we take people out of those conditions, and more than just give them the speech of don't do crime because you can go to jail and it's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. How are we giving them other resources? How are we giving them other opportunities so that they can choose something else? People don't typically choose to do, the worst of the worst things. You have some examples, you have some mental health issues, you have other things, right? Right. But most people find themselves in that survival mode, that we have to look at how we end those cycles and create a better sense of opportunity around.
Absolutely. Okay. Let me ask another question. It's a question. They're not asking a question, but they're making a statement. And this is something that's been going on year after year after year after year. It's from Betty McGee. That's my cuz. What's up, cuz? Glad you're watching. She says the gun show is coming this Saturday, and this isn't helping any. As a mayor and someone who who understands the civic part of gun shows, what is it that the city can do about gun shows coming to Jackson? Because we don't know. We all assume that the city should just stop it.
Well, that's in part what led to the great disdain for me. If you remember, first, let's be clear that after the death of Quinyana Davis, a 5-year-old little girl who was shot in the head in a Jackson apartment because of a fully automatic weapon and some young men having, a shootout, and the bullet came through her apartment and hit her, that led me and that struck me in a different way. That I tried to do a temporary cease on open carry, right? Mm-hmm. We were in the middle of a pandemic, knowing that people in financial strain and with guns proliferated all over the place, that wasn't going to make things any better. That's why I chose to make that decision. And I was sued, right? I was sued, and to the other brother point, I was trying to step out on a limb, and it wasn't too many people saying, yeah, Mayor, we with you, right? But that's why I did that, right? Now, with respect to the gun shows, and we also went into the Trademark Center on one occasion, and our police department with our permit department went in there and started looking for people who had business permits, right? And were able to shut them down for a little bit. And they got angry with us for doing that, because not only are they saturating our communities with weapons, they're also, not paying anything to our communities, right? But the city of Jackson has no control as it pertains to what goes on the state fairgrounds, right? The state fairgrounds, while it is surrounded by Jackson, is actually considered state property. It's almost like it isn't even the city of Jackson, right? It's just this island of land that is just the state of Mississippi, and we have no jurisdiction on the state fairgrounds to prevent them from having those gun shows. And they fiercely defend those. And let's be clear, I'm not against guns, right?
Right.
I have owned a number of guns in my life, right? My father believed in guns. He believed in arms training, right? So I don't have an issue with guns in and of themselves. What I have an issue of is, not making sure that we have responsible gun ownership, not making sure that we don't have illegal guns, which are often used to carry out crimes, right? Because people don't want to be traced back to those weapons. There's opportunities. There's a movement, a mayor from out of Ohio. I worked with him as we talked about the creation of smart guns that actually the trigger can only be pulled or activated by your fingerprint, right? So if you aren't the registered owner of that gun, right, then you can't shoot somebody up. You can't steal that gun and go and commit some crime. But we have to ask ourselves, if there's a middle ground, if there's an opportunity, if you just love being a marksman and that's a passion of yours, and that's something you want to do and you can achieve that. But at the same time, realizing that, what may be a passion of yours is being exploited in another regard, why can't we find the middle ground to maybe go to these smart guns, maybe go to, some metrics that make certain that we have better guardrails over the type of, very harmful, destructive, massively destructive tools that are in our community.
All right, phone lines open, 601-387-2684.
So kind of moving on into our next question here. What are some of the highlights of your tenure? What are your ups, your downs? What were some of the breaking points or making points that you had when you were in office?
Well, I'll start with, I'll start with the latter. Clearly watching our people deal with the devastation of, water insecurity was really, not personally, harmful to me, and it bothered me and still bothers me. It was something that was devastating to witness and to deal with, and to gain understanding as to why we had such insecurity and challenges within our water system. We dealt with 2 30-year floods while we were here. I've rode on, boats with wildlife and fisheries, while they were trying to save people out of their homes, right? Watching that devastation, watching the devastation of COVID, where we have people dying and, we don't have any unified approach as to how we're dealing with this. And mayors, cities don't typically deal with the issue of healthcare, right? Decisions on hospitals and Medicaid and all those other things are state decisions, and not having a unified structure in how we were dealing that. We were trying to create a solution. We were, fixing the bike while riding it, right? Trying to build solutions. So those were devastating things. But, watching, our ability to recoup, funds from bad contracts with the city was a high point. Watching our ability to invest a lot in our infrastructure and pave, more than 100, and I think it was 100 and nearly 150 roads in the city of Jackson, something like that, more than has been done in our history. Saving our school district, was important. Getting historic funds for the water system were highlights. We didn't only get the most money in Jackson's history. We got the most money in an end-of-the-year omnibus bill for any city, in U.S. history. So those were high points. But again, we're a city that has great lack, and we've had that lack for some time. And so at the end of the day, when people still see the decline of certain facilities in their communities, when they see the decline of the road that they drive on each and every day, then they don't feel it. But, that's why we have to become more organized and unified so that we have a proper metric of what success actually looks like. So that we don't get dismayed and give up the fight and the struggle, when the relief or the issue that we want to see most at that moment in time doesn't happen. So that if we have a proper sense of everything that's going on, then we can be able to better assess what progress is taking place. Right. And again, that doesn't only happen from elected office. That happens within community too.
Absolutely. That's a great point. So what are some of the things that you were able to learn from citizens during your administration?
Wow. So, it was always important to me, and it still is important to me, to have a sense of what's happening on the ground, what's happening, on, the block, in the very, basic level. I often was, receiving advice from elders that, whatever issue we were dealing with, that, told me to keep my cool and, advised me, not to get into the muck. I think somebody said when you wrestle with pigs, everybody gets dirty, right? And so, I'm appreciative of those many, many things. But also, I think that, I've learned that the greatest resource we have in Jackson are our people who have been resilient, who are tired, right? But have been resilient, have been willing to sacrifice on many, many levels. I don't think that you will find many cities, when you look through the history, where residents were willing to tax themselves, more, in order to see improvements. So I think the residents of Jackson, are willing to make the sacrifice. We learned a lot in through things like the People's Assemblies when we would have discussions about things that were going on. Learned a lot from the residents. The way we were able to save the school district, that wasn't, just me and the governor coming to an agreement. That was community members giving their view of what, progress looked like. Does JPS still have a distance to go? Absolutely. But we're no longer a failing district. We're a district that has made some of the greatest leaps in performance in the country, in fact. Are there still issues of safety that sometimes happen within our schools? Are there still issues of facilities? Are there still issues of wanting to improve the curriculum? Yes, and I don't know that will ever end. There will always be a need to improve even more. But I learned from the residents of Jackson in that process. And we work together in order to resolve that issue. And so the citizens of Jackson are really the best thing going in Jackson. In fact, I was voluntold that I was coming back to Jackson. When I went to law school in Houston. I was making more money as a intern, right, a law intern, than I was as a first-year lawyer with my father, right? Mm-hmm. But my father told me, boy, I didn't send you out there to stay, right? And so you got to come back. And so I'm grateful for that, because I not only got an opportunity to learn under him, but, that's what attracts me to Jackson. Jackson has a stickiness. Jackson has a culture that we often, because we're engaged in it, we don't see the beauty of our city. But people who come here, they love and enjoy the people. You can't go to a Jackson State game for the first time and not leave feeling, like something has happened to you, that you've experienced something great. You can't come here, during, when we're having, festivals or the fair time or, any of those things and not love Jackson. You can't, when we used to have Jubilee Jam, which we brought the folk festival. We fought and got the folk festival here as a way of igniting Jubilee Jam again, right? You can't go to those things or go to our St. Patrick's Day parade or any of our parades and just not say, man, these, it's nothing but love out there, right? People in Jackson don't even have to know you, man. Come over here and get some of this barbecue, man. I got the best ribs, right? We want you to feel and experience and enjoy. And that's a beautiful thing that I hope we never lose, right? And so we need to spend more time embracing that. Zion, you and I were having a conversation before we came back from commercial, and you were talking about, the need for people to embrace unity and get on a common accord, and you were talking about how we speak of our city. The power of life and death is in the tongue. And so the more we talk down on our city, the more we talk negatively about our city, it not only creates, a negative atmosphere, but it destroys our city, right? It literally releases, spirits and principalities that are destructive to our city. And so we have to, start speaking positive. We have to accentuate the positives of our city. And far too often, it takes people who aren't from here to see that more frequently than we see it for ourselves. Now, I do want to say on this Jackson State thing, let me get this on out here. I love Jackson State. I know people gonna mess with me. I have been loyal. I've been down. I've been holding them down. We've given money from the city when Jackson State needed it. But there's a team coming in the third week that I'm gonna be on the other side.
The Delta Devils.
No, it ain't the Delta Devils.
The Mississippi Valley Delta Devils.
No, it ain't
That's
them.
what he want to say.
It ain't them. Nah, Tuskegee. The T, the U, S-K-E, the G-double-E, Tuskegee, right? Okay. When they come, I'm gonna be down with my alma mater, man. I love y'all, but I can't, that's family there.
Well, who's gonna win the game, though?
Listen.
You love your alma mater, but when they come to play Jackson State, who's gonna win the game?
You can't get me to say. Even when it looks daunting, you can't get.
No, sir.
Let me be clear.
I'm
just gonna point to. I'm gonna just point to about 6 years ago. Now y'all know Tuskegee and Jackson State played 6 years ago. Tuskegee beat them by 30, right? Like that. So I just, even if y'all win, I don't want y'all to think of this piddly little school that because we smaller that we can't hold our own. Now y'all might be going through more highs than we are right now, but we gonna hold our own.
All right, that's what you want to call it. But you heard it here first, folks. The best thing in Jackson is the citizens of Jackson. So continue to boost positive affirmations into the city. Look for the good. There's always great in this city. Now, I want to make a brief quote by Abraham Lincoln. He said, we can either rejoice that thorns have rose bushes, or we can be upset that rose bushes have thorns. So always look for the positive within the city. And we're going to move on to the next question here. What's your biggest positive takeaway from being there?
It's simple. I won't make this a long response, right? I love being a problem solver. I love, the joy of relief that's on people's face when something happens. Always wish that I could experience it more and more and more, even more than I had to experience it. But just a love for this city. This is the place, as I mentioned, 1988, my parents made a decision, which I think was the best decision they ever made, to move here. This is where my daughters were born. This is where my parents are buried. And so the greatest takeaway was and still continues to be to experience all that this city has to offer and move some objectives forward. We want to make sure that progress continues to happen. And so, progress isn't a finish line. It's a never ending, marathon of how you get better. And so we have to continue to push in that regard.
Absolutely.
Little known history fact. When you sat down, you mentioned about me rapping back in the days. You also talked about Jubilee Jam. Did you know I was a headliner for the very first Jubilee Jam that ever played in Jackson?
Zion, I don't know if I was born for the very first. No.
Go ahead now. You were born. Yes, sir. You were born.
No, that's beautiful, brother.
I was actually a headliner for the very first Jubilee Jam.
That's amazing, brother. No, my first job, and I may have been on the stage, around you. My very first job was I worked as the soundboard director at Anderson United Methodist Church when I was in high school. Paid well, Zion. You know, only worked, you know, one day a week, and I was making about $200, you know, every Sunday. So that worked for me. But out of that, learning how to operate the soundboard, I was often called for weddings and concerts to do it. And so I operated the soundboard at one or two Jubilee Jams, but
Really?
it wasn't the first one. I know it wasn't.
I'm gonna tell you how long ago it was. I'm gonna tell you who else had a first at Jubilee Jam. Are you familiar with DJ Finesse?
Yeah,
Everybody familiar with DJ Finesse?
absolutely.
He was Chris Carr back then with the high top fade. He was in a DJ competition to win a guest spot on 99 Jams as a DJ.
Oh man.
So he won the competition, and he's been on the radio ever since then. That's
Yeah.
how he got his job at the radio.
Yeah.
From Jubilee Jam.
Well, you would have loved, and a lot of people didn't know this, my father loved hip hop, right? Not only, you know, now he sometimes critique Pac, and you know, he didn't love I Get Around as much as he loves, you know, Brenda's Got a Baby, right? But he was a fan of hip hop. He loved it. You know, when we would play basketball when I was in high school, and I played with, you know, Mo Williams and I are really close. We're good. We played growing up. Darius Rice from Lanier. We played together. Solomon Forbes. We at one point we had 10 of the 12 Dandy Dozens on our AAU team. Right.
Okay.
So we were pretty powerful. We made noise all around the country. But when he would ride with the boys, you know, we want to listen to some hip hop. And so one of my father's favorite songs that people would be surprised was Mr. Ice Cream Man by Master P. Right now, I don't know if he knew what ice cream really was in that song, but he used to love that song.
He didn't know. Do you want to ask the last question?
Yeah, we'll hop right into the last one. So this is the one that most people would like to know. It's the big one. So is there another mayoral run in your future?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I'm always going to be disciplined, and I didn't envision myself running to begin with, but I'm always going to be disciplined for what the Lord leads me to do. Saying that, I, in my human form, don't envision, right, and I don't anticipate running for mayor again, right? Now, I want to leave room for whatever the Lord has, but that's not what I envision.
Will you endorse me then? No, I'm
if you look, I'll tell you this. Now that's gonna be the problem because you know you got a strong brother, right?
Well, look, Marcus Wallace is on here too. Big ups to Marcus Wallace. I might get him to endorse me too.
Yeah. Listen, if you doing good work, brother, if you are uplifting community, then that's the only thing that matters to me and forces my hand in who I support. You know, you and I were running against each other.
Yes, sir.
But that has never created any hostility between us. I've come to you on a number of occasions and told you that I respect the work that you do. I told you no matter how this thing shook out, that I was going to continue to engage you and work with you. I appreciate you for coming out when Congressman Ro Khanna from California came, and he was talking about issues of economic justice, talking about this program that he brought. Ro Khanna called me. He's the congressman for much of Silicon Valley in California, and you know he came to me with an opportunity to not only educate but to give a stipend to Jackson State students, right? And you have Jackson State students that are making thousands of dollars, that many of them are entering careers in the tech industry. And so, you know, he's not just someone who's coming with a message, but he's coming with opportunities and resources and you know, wanting to build with us. And so I appreciate you coming when I gave you that invitation. You know, and it may have even been a little last minute, but you made sure that you were there. And so I look forward to working with you. And I look forward to all that you're going to do, brother, right? Yes, you know, I've just enjoyed not only our conversation right here, but when the mics were off. And so that's a beautiful thing to me. I just want to see what y'all going to do, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to reset Jackson.
Yeah, all right.
Look, a quick question. What type of law do you practice?
So I primarily do a lot of criminal and personal injury. Right now, I've been retained by a few 501c3 organizations to operate as their general counsel. So, I advise them, I may handle some criminal cases on their behalf for the people that they represent in different ways. But I also provide, contractual counsel, the various needs that the organizations have. But I'm a part of a law firm, Bellender and Associates, that we do a spectrum of things. And so we have a full team there where we're not only representing people, we operate a food pantry out of our law office, right? We're in a space where we see many unhoused people. And instead of, running out there to try to run them away from the door because, the unsightliness of being unhoused, we're trying to support people. And so shout out to my law partner, Thomas Bellender. Shout out to the work that they do. Shout out to PAI, People's Advocacy Institute. Shout out to Mississippi for a Just World. People who are just, passionate about bringing a better condition to our city and the world.
Man, wonderful. Zion, you have anything else to say before I close this out?
Absolutely, of course. So one of the main things I just want to stress here is, in just kind of just like summarizing everything that has happened, just the main takeaway of all of this is the importance of community, the importance of solidarity, because if there is no set vision for the city of Jackson, we can no longer continue to be angry at the circumstance. Now, of course, we can be angry at how it is looking for us, but until we all come together, we set a metric, we set up systems, we set up programmatic solutions that help us address these issues, it's going to take a village to get what we actually want to see done. And just because you think the grass is greener on the other side, because things aren't going the way you want them to, or the upwards mobility isn't happening as fast as you intended it to, doesn't mean that there isn't progress behind the scenes and that there isn't stuff being done on the ground. So it takes a system, everybody. It takes community, and it takes strong leadership. But that leadership comes from you first. That's all.
All right.
And go ahead and give a quick shout about the event coming up this weekend.
We actually have a couple of events happening this weekend on JSU campus. We're hosting it's a Glitz Glam and No Guns event. It's a one night in Vegas themed event. It's going to be happening this Friday at 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. It is a community event, so you can bring your children, you can bring your family, you can bring your sister. It's not just for Jackson State University students. It actually is a local event. We're also going to be hosting a brunch this Sunday. It's going to be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be at 12 p.m. It's going to be in the Civil Rights Museum down here in Mississippi and Jackson. So if you can bring your family out, attend the event. There's going to be free food. There's going to be games. We're going to have spades. We're going to have dice rolling. We're going to have all the fun stuff that people like to engage in. And there's also going to be a lot of prize. So we're trying to aim for a whole weekend without violence in the city of Jackson. So like I said, just bring out your family, anybody that you think might be interested in it, and let's make it happen.
So you're telling me for a free weekend, free food, free games,
All of that.
bring the children,
All of that.
free brunch,
Free.
free from violence
Free from violence,
for
especially.
the whole weekend.
For a whole weekend. That's the initiative. Like, I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, come check it out yourself. We're not lying. Free food, free games, free of violence. Make it happen.
And you don't have to be a student.
You don't have to be a student.
So
either.
you saying somebody as old as I am can come waltzing up in there saying, I'm here for the food.
Of course, we want the whole community out there.
And somebody as old as this guy.
I want to come for the spades game. That's what
come
I
for
want.
the
That's what I'm
spades.
coming for.
Hey, yes, we will have a spades tournament as well, and we're going to have a lot of gift cards to be given out as well, a lot of special, unique JSU merchandise for everybody that participates. So please show up in numbers. Like I said, the importance of solidarity, unity. If you want to get active, if you're not an activist, this is your chance to start right here. So show up to the events.
All righty. Before we get out, I want to thank Rodney DePriest, Jacqueline Hill, Marcus Wallace is back on, Betty McGee, and everybody that was on that first one. I had to end it, and this is a new one. If I didn't say your name, it's not because I didn't care. It's because I just didn't remember. But I love you anyway. Next week, we have international known. He has 13 awards for autism. His name is Mr. Marcus Boyd. You do not want to miss this guy. He is something special. If you know anybody with autism, or if you know anybody that has a family member dealing with it, you want to catch the show next week. Again, this guy has been internationally recognized for his work with autism. Mr. Marcus Boyd, he'll be here next week on Your Words, Your Voice. I want to thank Zion Washington Jackson State's finest and a future leader of this country. I want to thank the Mayor Chuckway Antar Lumumba, and I am James Hopkins, and we're signing.